We're still considered a smaller, like a real small startup. I think it was
Mhm.
only like at the time that I interviewed was maybe like 40 people.
Yeah.
And by the time I got the job, it was maybe like 60. And I was the sixth engineer as far as like software is concerned. So I kind of joined when things were going extremely fast.
Right. The
Like
growth stage.
right before I joined, there was 1 month we rose a ton of money, hundreds of millions, working, weekends. I was working overtime. We got a lot done, but we also had a ton of fun. Really, with Bird, I was really just trying to maximize that opportunity. We were a high-paced, rocket ship startups, high valuations, and tons of hiring. I mean, we had 50 people. When I left, it was over 1,000.
Wow.
But I'm always, of course, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life.
Right.
With what I wanted to do, I wanted to eventually, I knew at some point I was going to dive back into an entrepreneurship, either role or actually, start my own business again.
All right. What's up, everyone? Welcome. I'm Jordan, founder of Black Man Book Club. We've got something very special going today. We're in downtown Detroit in a secret location that no one knows about. And we're in this beautiful room interviewing a good friend of mine, Rodney Gainous.
Yep.
Just a little background on you before we dive right in. So you're the founder and CEO of Cosign. You previously were an early bird engineer, building the iOS app. You created a company that does everything from lifestyle products like Me Against Mankind, merchandise, specializing in drinks from top VC firms and startups, technology products like PGP encryption, app safe. But specifically today, we're here to talk about your first book. Your first book, first quarter. We'll have links to pre-order in the description for everyone that wants to check it out online.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no, most definitely, man. So I like to characterize you, and I don't know if you like this characterization. I characterize like a black tech rock star.
Yeah,
because like you've been all over basically the world.
Okay.
You've done all these different startups. You've lived this life. Like, well, is that a fair description of what you've done?
Yeah. I guess you can. Yeah, I guess rock star is a good. It's a way you can describe it. I've been tech has allowed me to do a whole lot of things since a young age. So it's been kind of a really fast, like a last decade or last life. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Fast. Yeah, the speed of things, right?
Speed is crazy.
Yeah. But I guess to kind of follow along in the book, first quarter, you just had your 25th birthday, so like that's the kind of the framework that you created for it. I guess I just want to kind of like go back a little bit, so what made you really want to write this book? Like, was it just like something that you saw as an opportunity because no one in the space was doing it, kind of describing their adventure while you're going through it? Or what would you say?
The main reason I always knew I wanted to write a book. I think since a young age, I thought that it would be cool one day just to write some of my thoughts, or even if nobody bought it, I just was like, this would be something cool to do. And I think after last year, being in Los Angeles and having all the things go on, I really got a wider perspective. And, me starting to tell my story, I started to realize like, okay, well, people are attracted to the story, and that was just one of the many stories that I wanted to tell. And so I figured, hey, why not? And then that's where I came up with the whole idea. I want to live a good 100. I want to live a nice 100 years. First quarter is that first 25.
Yeah, that's awesome. So like for you, like where does this all begin? Like I've known you since middle school, and for many of those years growing up, like no one would ever have thought you were working at any of these things. What is your? I mean, computer science is your background. Like where does all of this like begin for you? Like in those early stage days.
Yeah. So this kind of goes back like, I've always been a curious kid. Growing up, I was always curious, wanted to break down like, toys and just see what's going on in them. And then eventually I started looking into computers, breaking down computers, and I just followed my curiosity, right? And so eventually I was like, you know what? I can build computers. If you can build computers, why not build software? And so that's when I kind of got into, Java and whatnot.
And you read that book, right?
I read a book called Teach Yourself Java in 21 Days. And it was literally
kids out there, you find those books. Those are real and they work.
I should probably go buy it too. I torrented it back then. I didn't have the money.
You know what? That's another part of the hustle.
Yeah,
so
I'll
because
have to,
if we don't have
the
access, like, with the money, it's like the internet had so many different ways to facilitate learning through, maybe different means that might not be the most, correct in the modern sense.
Oh yeah, of course.
But
a kid on the internet is,
right. They're free. They're free.
Yeah.
So they have access to whatever. I mean, did like getting that book, understanding your upbringing, like getting that escape with coding, was that like was that a way for you to get away from the world and kind of like be in control of it? Because like I remember, listen, I was with you growing up. I went to middle school with you, and I remember riding the bus with you, and I was an idiot in school, so I really didn't hate anybody. But I didn't think you were doing any of that at all. So you were quiet. You didn't really go out, like you didn't talk to anybody. So was that something that you thought of it like? Or?
So yeah, I definitely, coding became an escape for me. It was interesting, right? So like at first coding was just something I was curious about. And then it kind of somehow merged into my video game interest.
Yeah.
And then I was able to, take my coding interest, but also my interest in video games. And I ended up, making, bots and cheat codes. And
that's the next question to ask you. About that world.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the game was the escape, and then like the coding was like the curiosity, and then it just like it just converged.
Yeah. Because like, RuneScape, that game is it's so funny because it's such a good analogy for like the modern day social media in my sense, because it's just like you have a character, you build them a certain way, you can change how they look and how they act, and you can say certain things, people will think you're something. But you were playing the whole other side of the coin, right? You're making bots on the game, to let people basically skip all those steps and get right to the end. So can you talk about like that experience of working on that? Like, project?
Definitely. It was so, of course, as a young kid, I'm trying to figure out how do I level up faster than I already can. What I'm saying? Like I got school 8 hours of the day, and I just can't understand how people are getting certain stats. So I'm just like, I gotta find some cheats, or I ended up stumbling into bots, and then it just so happened that the bots were built in Java, and so me with that freshly new knowledge, it was just like, okay, well I kind of understand what's going on in here, and then I was on one of the forums, and I saw a fighter, but it only fought one monster in the game. I think it was like chickens or something really, really basic.
Right.
And
there's hundreds of monsters.
Hundreds of monsters in the game, right? Yeah. And at some point, I'm like, why just that one monster? You know what I'm saying? Like I was just curious to know, and I looked in there, and it was just written. The name was just written in there. So in my mind, I'm thinking, all you need to do is type in the name of any monster, and then you can find any monster in the game.
Right.
I took that script, I changed it, and it ended up being like, it was free initially, like it ended up blowing up like within the community. Yeah. And then that's when I was approached by, a young startup at that time, to join a platform, in which case they were going to start selling premium bots, and they wanted my product to be included in that.
It's crazy. And I don't know if you want to disclose like all like how crazy it was, right, like money wise and like that, but it that experience, like I want people to understand, like I was in middle school and high school with them, no one had any idea, there is you made no assumption, you may let no one understand, so like how did that feel, like walking around school knowing you're doing all this thing on the side, making all this money, doing all these things, and we're talking about algebra, and you're doing all this, you're doing stuff way beyond anyone's imagination. Like,
I think, I feel like I was arrogant, so not in a way where I wasn't like the arrogant one asshole that that you saw, like, that you was
Right,
more like a
right.
silent, confident
Right.
arrogance.
No, yeah, you didn't push it off on anybody. You didn't have that impression.
Right. I would never.
But in your mind, you're like, these
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
In my mind, basically, like, it'd be teachers telling you, you can't do this without, a degree. You can't do this without,
right.
and I'll just be sitting in the back of the classroom, like, that's I know that's just not true.
Yeah, that's not true.
But I'm not gonna, and at that time, I definitely didn't want to, really stand out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And,
Right.
But I ended up making, I was making a ton of money.
Yeah. No, it's insane, man. Yeah, and you were doing that up until like senior year? Or
so
high
it
school?
ended. Yeah, so it was like the beginning of my junior year when I started.
Oh, you started. Okay.
Or probably right after. Actually, it was probably right after my freshman year,
Mm-hmm.
but I ended right at the beginning of my senior year.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah,
So so right before like all the events like prom and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, all that stuff
And
happened.
so it was interesting. It was, especially given my family situation. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, it was the 2009 like crisis. Housing crisis, and we were
Right.
definitely affected by that. We had neighbors that were affected by it. People who are mortgaging their homes and just moving. Even
it was a very heavy time.
It was,
important
yeah.
to have that supplement income, I'm sure.
it was even
Yeah,
one of
very
my childhood best friends had moved away too during that period. So I spent more time alone than I usually would, but kind of opened another door to me, and I was able to do help my family out, go on vacations. We hadn't gone on vacations in years.
Right,
Like,
right.
it was crazy. New car. It was great. It was great.
It's so important to hear these type of stories because people don't understand like the process to like one, like learn coding, for example, and then two is like the world we live in as Black entrepreneurs and black men as we were trying to create our space, and the walls and the barriers we have to break down. It's like it's a hell of a story, man. That whole situation probably warrants its own damn book. That's what I think. But
Right. Yeah. A lot of people say that, and I probably could make a whole book on that. And I think there'll definitely be like more content around that for sure.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we'll keep going because this is the part where we leave high school and we leave high school and we go straight to college and
yeah.
Ironically, out of the blue, me and you end up as roommates in this program for Wayne State University, and there, that's when we really started to know each other a little bit better, and we having a great time at the program. We weren't really thinking of anything else though.
Right.
But once we left Wayne, and once you left Wayne, I mean, we've talked about a few times how Wayne was like, or just school has always not been really our thing.
Yeah, it never was.
Yeah.
If it was up to me, I would have dropped out in high school, but I had my dad wasn't having that.
no way.
Yeah, it wasn't happening.
But yeah, I mean, I guess we can talk about after school. Like once we both left, like I dropped out, and you were they didn't let you come back.
Yeah, no, I got kicked out of school. Like I didn't. I guess you can call me a dropout, but I really
you were trying to stay in.
I tried to stay in.
They didn't let you stay in.
I was having too much fun.
Yeah. That's college though. But beyond that,
that's what it's for.
Yeah, that's what I think so. But once that was done, you and DeAndre started I think pushing the ideas about like pure code. What do you want to talk about, like the origins of pure code, a little bit more background about like how that started, and then we kind of get into like the stuff that happened outside of that,
Yeah. I guess, so with Dre, it's interesting because even when I was in high school, Dre was one of the first people to be like, hey, like you have a job. Like what are you, how are you always like you're never worried about anything? And I'm just like, oh yeah, I have something like that, but I kept it real, like and
real life.
Yeah, and because at that time I really wasn't ready to bring other people into what I was doing. I was kind of just going at it alone, and then later I found out like Dre was into tech. He was into just startups, and so it just made sense. I guess we just started talking about ideas, and then just having those conversations, I was like, you know what, let me go check on this like Twitter app I made. Because I had completely forgot about it. I was having too much fun at Wayne, so I completely forgot about what happened. And it was a Twitter app that I made in high school right before we went to Wayne State University.
Yeah.
And it blew up, you know, and
Follow.
it was, called Follow.
Yeah.
And it blew up, and it was hundreds of thousands of people had downloaded it. And it was crazy. And I think that inspired me to get back into software and get back into tech. And then we kind of converged on that.
Yeah.
Like with Follow being like the first product, and then, you know, Run, which is the one we were all on, was next.
Right. Yeah. And then, yeah. And I remember coming down that basement, Francis' basement at one time, and it was right after I read this book, actually, Steve Jobs, Walter Isaacson.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right, I read this one.
Right, that's a great book.
Yeah, this is what
just finished it too.
Yeah, the incredible book. It's what kind of got me into tech.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember coming down to the basement and talking to you guys about like, we're starting this thing called Pure Code, and you know, we're wondering if you want to, you know, jump on. And I'm like, fuck it, let's do it.
Why
like,
not?
Why not? I've nothing to lose, nothing to do. I'm dropped out of school,
and
here we are today. But jumping into Run, like that was, I think, the big like first like startup, you know, that I've been a part of. What was your perspective about like what Run is or what Run was, and that experience and what you've like gained from that?
I think what like Run was is like it was solving a problem that we all had while we were in college. So it was really easy to get behind it. You know what I'm saying? It was really easy to give it to or explain it to people, because it's like, all right, we're saying on-demand delivery for college students. Everybody knows it's hard to get food after like 10 o'clock you know, in university. So us doing that made it like, it was just clear. It was just obvious. And at the time, DoorDash and Uber Eats and all those other ones weren't really main. Those weren't.
I don't think they were out.
They might not even been out, because I think it was 2013. And you know, so Run was just, you know, it was on-demand delivery, you know, for college students. And I learned a lot. Some of the biggest takeaways is just to keep going, because we, you know, through that whole period, we learned a ton, talking to investors, other entrepreneurs, you know, just tons of people. And just, we were there, especially with the early Detroit tech startup community. You know, just, it was, I guess, looking back on it, the biggest thing was like the relationships that we built. And then also just the idea that we can do a lot more than we usually think we can do.
Right. Yeah. And that's a running thing through first quarter. I feel like after, you know, you show me an advanced copy, it seems like it's all about breaking those barriers. Yeah. 100%. You know, like hitting those metrics that are in your mind, like, and allowing yourself to say, okay, I did that. Now let me go 10x this. You know, like that fear that people have that seems like you've mastered to break. It's like 10xing whatever you've 10x'd. You know, and I want to kind of segue, because, you know, we worked on Run for a while. Then you kind of fell into the role of traditional like software engineer, but then you made a decision that kind of sent you in a whole different stratosphere, kind of the 10x that I'm talking about. You know, you're from Detroit to SF.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I want to hear your thoughts on
that part. It was, so really it was when we did Run, we always thought doing a startup in Detroit was the best thing. So we weren't as open-minded to California. And I think afterwards, after Run, just reflecting on some of the stuff that we learned, it was just like, California is where tech is at. It's where tech is living, you know, Silicon Valley and all that. So it was just, I was here in Detroit, and I had a great job. It was me. I was working at Ford. I was maybe 20 or 21, and I had everything. You know what I'm saying? I had a nice house. I had a nice car. All these things, and I kind of felt that, you know, and I kind of felt that I needed to change something. And then, you know, I kind of got lucky. So I was just online looking at opportunities, and I got lucky. Found this guy who was looking for, you know, some developers to build something, and we were able to set up like a deal so that I could move out there, and that came up. And then I was like, you know what? No one else would be like, let me just call Dre, see what he thinks about this, because Dre, you know, Dre, he's always
ready.
Yeah, he's always ready to go to California. So he bought me my first ticket to California. So, you know, So I called him, like, hey, do you want to go to do you want to go to California? Like, would you be down to move? And he said, oh yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
just like
ready.
just ready. And literally, like, it was like from that moment, 2 weeks later, we packed everything, sold everything.
So this is a decision you've made, and 2 weeks later, boom, flying.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks at the most. That's awesome. Yeah, I couldn't even I was giving the stuff in my apartment away for free. No, like, it just wasn't enough time to even get all that stuff out.
Leave it there and go.
Yeah, I just left it there. Take care of the bill later. But and then went to California, and it was hard.
Yeah,
and, it was a challenge. We didn't know anybody out there. We had to network, we had to grind, and I guess it was that challenge I was looking for, because I wasn't fulfilled, and even though I was making a lot of money at the jobs I was at, it wasn't fulfilling. And I think that move to California, that big leap, was a challenge that I needed.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's an amazing situation you guys kind of pulled out, because I remember those days. It was hard, those first few months in SF. Like, it was difficult, and you pulled out of that. You started working for NEMA. That's the startup that does, remind me, it's the
gluten sensor.
Gluten sensors.
Gluten and peanuts. So they can sense. So if you put a sample of food in NEMA, it can sense whether or not there's peanut or gluten in it.
Right. That's amazing. And you were there for what, 6?
No, I was there for a year.
You were there for a year, and then you made another move. So you hit you're in SF. You've seen the scene. You've gotten what you've needed to, and then you fly down to LA. So what made LA a better destination for you than SF?
Right. I guess what it was like in SF, it's a very so specifically I was living in Berkeley, and it was very there's a certain spirit to it. It's nice, it's magical, and the Bay has a similar spirit as well. But I felt like I wanted to go somewhere else that was a little bit more, fit for, I guess, my age. Meaning it was a lot more advanced, a lot more fun, and then just more people that just looked like me. And and then also it just something in me felt like I wasn't supposed to be in the Bay Area, and so I was like, so I went to Los Angeles and I just met a bunch of people, and at first I had no real plan. I just showed up. I just kind of went there, just hit the road, and
at the time, LA's tech scene was kind of it was coming up. I believe it was
biggest
like
events. Exactly. Like, it wasn't. It was like, if people knew about it, but it wasn't like getting a lot of light just yet.
Right.
Yeah, and when I hit there, started working for a cryptocurrency startup, and just on a contract basis.
Right.
And then after that, kind of just living in LA for a little bit.
Yeah, and then it goes into like, you began working. So after that, you got on you used a new product, and it inspired you. I think this is a very important part of the story, because it just shows like the barriers that we see are invisible. Like, you're not there.
Right.
Like, so I love to hear you just talk about like your experience, getting the job at Bird, like kind of how you got introduced to Bird and how you were just like, it came to you.
Right. Yeah.
And then, more than about like the experience.
Yeah, sure.
Working there.
So it was so when I first touched down in Los Angeles, I saw Bird scooters everywhere. But in my mind, I'm thinking that this is a normal thing. I'm not thinking that this is a new product, because I'm not from Los Angeles.
Right.
I'm just thinking like, okay,
this is regular.
This is what people from Los Angeles do. And then and I kind of didn't want to ride one. I was like, and I had a friend that kept bugging me about it. And I'm like, man, I don't want to ride. I don't want to ride a scooter, man. I'm not trying to do that. And then one day I caved, because he just kept asking me, and I hopped on one, and I won't lie, I had an amazing experience. And afterwards, it was just so much fun. And I was like, I had to find out who made it. Yeah. And I went and looked it up, found the CEO, found out that he was previously an exec at Uber and an exec at Lyft before that. And so I was like, this is a new startup. This is brand new. Yeah. And so I reached out to the CEO, and was like, hey, you know what I'm saying, I love what you're doing, you know, and I had some ideas. So said I would love to, you know, like join, like figure out how we can work with the team.
Mm-hmm. And then the rest, he was just like, okay.
Yeah, like it was just like, yeah, it really was pretty easy from there. It was like, it was, I mean, not to say like the process, like, but it was more so, it just went in sequence. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had an interview, like he introduced me to the CTO. We had an interview. Then I had another, like a traditional like process. And then it was in 3 weeks, I had a job. And at the time when I was interviewing, we were at a WeWork office, so like a small little office in WeWork. And, you know, we were still considered a smaller, like a real small startup. I think it was only like, at the time that I interviewed was maybe like 40 people.
Yeah.
And by the time I got the job, it was maybe like 60. And I was the 6th engineer as far as like software is concerned. And it, by the time I joined, we were in a bigger office. So I kind of joined when things were going extremely fast. Like,
right, the growth stage.
Right. It was like I joined, and then it was like right before I joined, we rose. There was 1 month we rose a ton of money, hundreds of millions, and from there it just was a fast ride. Yeah.
Incredible. So you're working at Bird. You're doing all these really, really cool things. You're working with scooters, valuations going up. I'm assuming you have equity in the company. Like all these things are happening, but you're thinking about other things though. You know, you're thinking about other startups, thinking about your own stuff. So what is your mindset? Well, all this is going around you, all this like kind of like jump on the gravy train going around you, but you're going back to what's important to you. Like how's that feel?
Yeah. So really with Bird, I was really just trying to maximize that opportunity. You know, we were a high-paced, rocket ship startup. So, I was, working, weekends. I was working overtime, and we got a lot done, but we also had a ton of fun. We went, we went places. We rode on Bird during our breaks. A lot of great things. I think, but I'm always, of course, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life.
Right.
So, with what I wanted to do, I wanted to eventually, I knew at some point I was going to dive back into an entrepreneurship, what I'm saying, either role or actually, start my own business again. And so, after about a little bit over a year, of high valuations, tons of hiring. I mean, we had 50 people. When I left, it was over 1,000.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Wow.
And, we were international. But when I left, I decided I was going to take some months off just to kind of think about what I was going to do next. I had an idea. It was called Cosign. And at that time, I didn't really know what it was, but I knew it was going to have a hashtag. And I knew it was going to be about code.
Yeah. Well, probably 1,000 people ask you what the hell Cosign is.
Right. And I want to set the record straight on that right now.
Okay, good. Perfect.
So like, it's kind of like a double meaning to it. So like, in coding, to code sign something is to essentially verify it, so it's essentially just a coding term, but just saying code sign. So if you're a code sign, then you're just verified, you're authentic, you're just real, basically.
Right.
And so I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it, but I figured I was like, I was gonna take some steps and just move forward. So people are like, are you doing a company? Are you doing this? And I kind of always dodged those questions because I wasn't trying to define it yet. I was just trying to go with my creative process.
Right.
And over time, it led to me realizing that it's mainly like a lifestyle business. You know what I'm saying? And so essentially, we do, like you said earlier, we have some energy drinks that we did with some top VC firms and some startups. We also have, we also do, just software.
Yeah.
I brought Safe under that as well. And it's just really just a lifestyle of building products, but also like living a good life. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
The life that tech has afforded me has been very, very exciting. It's been fun. And I wanted to showcase that with Cosign in a kind of like, Nike/sporty type way. And so that's really what Cosign is.
I'll tell you, every time I think about Cosign, just all the different things underneath it, the phrase keeps coming to me is like the eye of the storm. Like all of these things are about being in the eye of the storm, whether it be the merchandise or the drinks. It's all about like what you have here right now in this moment that can make you feel a certain way. Like safe is like how can you secure yourself today? How can you like be for yourself like against X? Like how can you be what that is today?
Exactly.
So I it's freaking dope. So Left Bird working on Cosign and Safe has risen. It seems to be doing really well right now. Now a lot of people might not know about PGP encryption, so maybe if you can give like a brief like description that you think would help people like understand kind of what the iOS app kind of does.
Yeah, sure. So so PGP stands for Pretty Good Privacy. It was a technology protocol built like 20 years ago by a guy, I believe his name is Phil Zimmerman. And it's just a well-known technology, especially amongst journalists and cryptocurrency enthusiasts. And so it essentially just allows you to make your messages unreadable and untraceable. That's where we're at today. And we wanted to ultimately become a large privacy platform.
And who would you say, you mentioned crypto users and journalists. Who else would you say would be benefit? I know we talked before about like victims and things like that. Like definitely. It seems the use case for a product like this is really about like people that need that security.
Exactly. I think one thing that's important to know is like with Safe, there's a lot of secure applications out there, a lot of secure things out there, but Safe really focuses on being anonymous, and that's important, especially for those other cases, like you said, whistleblowers, victims, and whatnot. Because we've had cases even where we have journalists who will talk to people who are, under more oppressive or authoritarian governments, and they're going through maybe like discrimination, capital punishment, and some very serious, in situations, and so they don't want their identities, because there's a high risk to their identities, being, discovered. And the same, not only that, celebrities also have a high risk, of their information being, discovered, because, they have more of a public eye on them. Right.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's very, very interesting. So what do you think the year looks like for you coming? We're in 2020, new decade, like, what does the year of 2020, not the decade, but the year of 2020 look like for you and your businesses? Do you feel like keep growing it, or do you see other routes, or like kind of I guess beyond the first quarter, like looking to the second quarter, like what do you?
Yeah, so this year has been all about just doubling down and doing the work. Not saying that any other year I wasn't doing the work, but I definitely when I was in Los Angeles had a lot of fun. And I think it was time for me to go sit back down, reflect, and then now I'm focused on the work, and mainly that's Safe. So Safe, we want that to be the ADT security of the virtual world.
That's nice.
And
that's
so
nice.
And our vision is a virtual shield on every phone. So I want to do that, and just focusing on that. Right now we're getting a lot of users signing up. A lot is going on in just the United States. So I think that's also driving an increase in the amount of people who want to send anonymous messages or secure encrypted messages.
Right.
So, I'm just focusing on Safe, and I'll be seeing, where that leads me. But it's just mainly focusing on Safe and fundraising and all those other things.
Awesome.
Hiring.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome, man. Just to run through some highlights and things I noticed, and probably wrap up after this, man. This has been an really awesome interview. I hope everyone at home that's listening and watching can really like soak up this knowledge. I think it's super, super important. But you brought up Safe and just the idea of privacy, and kind of going back to your upbringing. You were talking about how you kind of programming lets you kind of get away from the world and focus on that. Do you see a connection between like what you're working on today with Safe to like kind of how your upbringing and like how you wanted to stay like to yourself, like kind of privacy was thing that you could really get?
Definitely.
Do you feel that?
Yeah, no, I definitely feel like that. I feel like, growing up, I had a little bit more, overbearing, father in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And he was it wasn't I'm not going to say he was a terrible guy, but what I would say is that he was very, you know, um, scared. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? So he would always want to know what it is I'm doing, who do I know, who am I
Mm-hmm.
talking to, and in some cases I felt like in times that there was some invasions of privacy, and I think that when I built Safe, I kind of drew on that feeling of having being your privacy not being respected, and I know that people really care about it,
Mm-hmm.
and just because I remember that feeling,
Right.
so I know that I knew that there was going to be a need for it, and when I built it, it turned out there was. So
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, what? Yeah. The follow back on that, like, yeah, us as Black men, we don't really talk about that experience as much as I think we should. Like the overbearing father, the situation where it feels like you kind of have to follow the rules of the family instead of
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
breaking out and kind of being your own.
right, right, right.
Um, as a black man that's a founder, like if you could like speak directly to like young,
Mm-hmm.
black boys and black men that are
Mm-hmm.
interested in technology, interested in starting startups, like what
Mm-hmm.
would you think your best advice would be for them, like as they navigate things, kind of you've navigated them?
Yeah, I think they should try to find, definitely other Black founders if they can,
Mm,
and just reach out to as many people that they see and read about,
yeah,
you
the
know,
mind trust.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and just have less fear. Don't be scared to ask questions, and just be who you are. I've met a lot of people. I mean, there's people that I used to read about when I was like 16, like when I was in my teenage years,
Mm-hmm.
and 13, 14, 15, and I ended up meeting those people later in life.
Mm-hmm.
Just by just shooting them an email. I
Right,
shoot. I
right.
mean, I do tons of cold emails. I'm like
Yeah,
just insane with it. But
yeah.
I think that if people can get comfortable, sending, and those cold emails to people that, so that they can get inside,
Right.
and not be so much of an outsider, that will help. And then, yeah, I mean, and they can always reach out to me. All my articles, all my information to contact me is all public,
Mm-hmm.
so I write on Medium. And you can go on my website, rodneygainous.com too. So
Yeah, we'll
I'm
link to that in the
always,
description as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, and
yeah.
I'm always open to help with that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. No, that's cool. So I guess hearing that, like you say one of your keys, because my next question was what your key success would be, but one of your keys, it sounds like, is you know reach out. Don't be afraid. Like
Hmm.
speak. Like
Hmm.
don't turn into a shadow on the wall.
Hmm.
Like say your piece. Like
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Say your piece, and don't be afraid to have a opposing viewpoint either. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes, growing up, at least for me, like the opposing viewpoint was more shunned upon,
Mm-hmm.
and not really accepted. And sometimes, that is not because it's actually bad, but maybe because of a lack of being informed of what it is you're trying to do, or
Right.
whatever the case is. So just being able to make up your own mind and think differently, and think with your
Yeah.
own rationality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. The last question I really had was what gets you going? Like what drives you to start companies, work
Hmm.
for Bird, do
Hmm.
all this stuff, build apps? Like
Hmm.
what wakes you up, man? Like how do you keep that drive going? 'Cause I think a
Hmm.
lot of people they begin, but then they
Hmm.
kind of stop.
Right,
They
right,
start and it kind of just. So
right.
what gets you in
Yeah.
there?
I think it's one of those things where, if you really truly believe you can do something, I think you'll always try to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you really, believe that you can, for example, if you believe you'll be an NBA player, and you'll really try to do that, you know what I'm saying? Unless there's obviously another thing that you love more, but it's just the whole idea of, tech is something that has been in my life for a long time. So it's kind of, even though I'm young,
Yeah.
I've been in, tech since, for 10 years.
Yeah, no, you're a
So
vet in the game.
yeah, so it's yeah, so it's natural for me,
Hmm.
and I just have a natural curiosity to fix problems, because even with
Hmm.
Save, it wasn't like I sat back and thought of how I'm gonna get everybody, how I'm gonna get sales, and
Right,
like,
right,
it was
right.
kind of like I was like, yo, we don't have any apps that do this, and
Hmm.
then so I just built it. Same thing with Follow, same thing with the bots I used to make.
Hmm.
It just comes down to, when I have a problem, I try to solve it. I'm always going to use technology as one of those tool belts.
That's That's awesome, man. Well, that's my last question, man. I want to thank you so
man.
much
Yeah,
for the
man.
interview,
Yeah.
man. Make sure you guys check out the new book. Link
First
is in the
quarter.
description. First quarter.
Yeah.
This has been a Black Man Book Club exclusive. So thank all of our partners over there as well to get this out for us. And we'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
See y'all.
Peace.